blossoming bush biomass sector in Namibia and the region at large by bringing together stakeholders of the growing biomass industry to not only strengthen the sector but to explore new opportunities within the area. I'm now joined by the Chief Executive Officer of the Namibia Biomass Industry Group, Mr. Progress Kashandula. Good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My pleasure being here.
Now, this year, the focus will be on discovering a new decade for biomass. That is the theme. How imperative is it, that the sector generates new ways of operation?
Let me say that a lot has been happening in the biomass industry at large. I must say the Biomass Fair creates a networking platform, a platform where we are able to share innovative outcomes of what the industry is doing at large. Beyond the Namibian context or the local context in terms of developing value chains from bush, I think we can acknowledge the world, developing activities in terms of combating climate change. There's been a move or a call to move from fossil fuels to like coal into renewable energy, of which biomass stands to be one of the resources which can be utilized within this space. So for us is acknowledging the ladder, the high ladder which biomass in respective bush biomass has actually climbed. So we need to celebrate that decade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk to us about, or give us some examples in some ways in which the biomass industry, has contributed to the Namibian economy.
I think very important to note is departing from a point of land degradation. We must note that our agriculture sector is impacted by the phenomenon of bush encroachment. This degrades land in terms of carrying capacity of livestock. Namibia is a very arid country with bush encroachment, meaning more water is lost. So the water table goes much more deeper. So what does the biomass industry do? We create innovative and sustainable means of controlling the bush. It's not that all the bush is bad, but too much of the bush is not good for our environment because it impacts our agriculture sector. So in that means, through sustainable bush control, we are actually bringing economic benefits, such as employment creation. With increasing bush value chain, I would say that there is a ripple effect in other industries. So we're not only creating employment creation in the biomass sector, but through employing different value chains and industrial measures, we are also at the same time creating opportunities for other industries which are closer to us. So let's note the charcoal industry only, which already brings in some export earnings of close to about 500 million Namibian dollars per annum from the 200,000 tons of charcoal which is exported out of Namibia. From an environmental perspective, I feel that we are increasing carrying capacities, and this is allowing farmers to store more animals, if I may say. Yeah.
You mentioned employment creation, and currently the sector employs 1% of the Namibian agricultural sector's workforce. How do you plan on, also addressing this at the conference, seeking ways to upscale this issue?
I think for us, it's not about only upscaling the number of workforce, but having the right workforce. I think it's very important. So I would say that capacity building measures, being able to communicate to the entire industry on right aspects of controlling our bush in a sustainable manner. So being able to create a platform for learning and exchange together with employees who are involved in the industry. I think that is the most important thing. From that end, the industry have worked on to developing formalized skills qualification with the National Training Authority. So what we want to do is, we push towards, strengthening the development of different bush value chains, which would definitely pull in need for employment, but at the same time, we want to develop right workforce. So the industry conference is going to looking at capacity building aspects. How do the right workforce tackle the problem of bush encroachment? What are the sustainable measures in terms of environmental issues which people need to comply to? What are some of the opportunities within the markets? Yeah.
What challenges are you faced with within this industry?
I must say that so as other industries, we go through quite a lot, and especially that we are operating on a very sensitive ground. We're speaking about bush. Like I've said, not that bush is bad, but too much bush is bad. So we need to really safeguard the environment. So for us, it's more of environmental sustainability. Being able to allow people to acknowledge, yes, the economic, which comes from the biomass resources, but at the same time, understanding that it's not only about the economics, it's all about restoration. All what we want to do is to thin out, to reduce the number of bush, and create space for more livestock. So the issues of environmental sustainability are still burning topics, being able to strengthen that aspect in the industry. There is another issue of market development. We can acknowledge that employing bush control activities is not very cheap. So we use strategies of value chain development. These value chains needs to have a market. So that is another challenge. So how do we actually develop local market and international markets for all surplus products? Issues of technology. We need to meet the standards of markets where we want to supply the products to. So there's need for improvement in terms of, the technology for harvesting and processing bush biomass into different bush biomass value chains.
As we're rounding off our discussion, Mr. Kashandula, perhaps you can talk to us about how communal and commercial farmers would greatly, benefit from this conference.
I think that's it's a very most important question, and I must really note that the farmers are the owners of the resources. At the same time, the farmers are the ones who are sitting with this disaster or the phenomenon of bush encroachment. There for me is, the farmers will be able to actually achieve, restored land if we employ sustainable mechanisms of controlling the bush. But also we must note that we look back to 2018, 2019, when we have drought in Namibia. A lot of farmers tried to diversify. Some of them who never thought of producing charcoal, they started producing charcoal because the livestock prices went really quite very bad. They had to find some subsidizing factors on their farms as activities to keep on their business going. So the issue is we see in future farmers diversifying, getting in the space of producing bush value chains, getting to sell these value chains to some markets, and being able to employ or bring in some funds to actually complement some of their key objectives of livestock farming.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here this evening. Lovely speaking to you, and all the best for the fair and conference.
My pleasure.
Thank
you so much. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we talk about Kenya's recently ended elections.